Do you ever feel like your evenings vanish into thin air? You leave work with this mental list of all the things you want to do. Go to the gym, catch up with friends, work on that business, and before you know it, the night's gone and you're setting your alarm for tomorrow to start the whole routine all over again. That was my life for years. But everything started to change when I figured out exactly where my evenings were going, and I made 5 changes to my habits that completely transformed how I use my time after work. It took me from stuck employee to making millions working for myself. If I were to start this whole thing over again, here's exactly how I do it. Habit number 1, remove the decisions from the moment. This is one of the most powerful hacks I've found for not wasting your evenings. Most of us who have full-time jobs spend 8 hours a day making thousands of little decisions. And the last thing that we want to do when we get home is make more. And by the time the workday's over, decision fatigue has already set in. So that means your evenings are actually the worst time to decide what to do next. I remember this so clearly when I was working as a dietitian. I'd start the day telling myself, tonight I'm going to spend 2 hours working on my business. But then after a full day of patient appointments, charting, answering emails, and solving last-minute problems, I'd finally walk through that front door, drop my bag, and look at the couch. And I think, maybe I'll just sit down for 5 minutes and recharge for a minute. You can probably guess where the next 3 hours went. Still sitting there on the couch, Netflix was asking me, are you still watching? See, here's why this happens. When you decide in advance how you want to spend your evenings, you're using the future-focused part of your brain. This is your prefrontal cortex. That's the rational, strategic part that really cares about your long-term goals. It's the version of you that actually wants to make those sacrifices, learn new skills, do the things that move your life forward. But if you wait until after work to decide what you're going to do, your future-focused brain isn't running the show anymore. You've literally handed over the keys to the primitive part of your brain. That's the part that's wired for comfort, rest, instant gratification. And so that brain's always going to tell you, you're tired, you had a long day, you deserve to relax, do it later. That's why the sacrifices that sounded really good at 8 a.m. suddenly feel impossible by 7 p.m. It's not laziness or lack of motivation. It's just that you're relying on the wrong part of your brain in the moment to make the decision. So here's what I want you to do today. Decide one thing that you will definitely do tomorrow evening and just pick one. Write it down on your calendar exactly when you will do it. It could be spending 1 hour working on a specific task for your side hustle, designing your web page, outlining a new product, sending that follow-up email. It could be practicing your new language you want to learn for 30 minutes, using that app, the audiobook, or the conversation practice. It could be doing a strength workout at home or at the gym, writing 500 words for your book or your blog or your content project, or it could be watching one lesson from an online course and taking notes. Now, this is key. When tomorrow comes around, you will for sure not feel like doing any of this. And so the skill is in practicing, noticing that you don't feel like doing it in the moment, and honoring your word to do it anyway. It creates a habit of doing what you said you were going to do because you said you were going to do it. Start taking your word seriously. And this habit alone, when you actually start doing it, will change your life. Successful people don't keep their word when it's convenient. Life becomes convenient because they keep their word. Habit number 2, declare and protect a sacrifice phase. This is one of the biggest reasons people never make meaningful progress after work in the evenings, because they try to squeeze transformation into their life without changing their lifestyle. They want the business, the new skill, the income jumps. But the reality is they're unwilling to sacrifice comfort to make room for it. When I finally started making real progress, it wasn't because I found a magic productivity hack. It was because I decided to commit to sacrifice. For 6 months, I treated my evenings like prime real estate. From the time I got home until the time I went to bed, everything that wasn't essential or moving me forward towards my goal had to get put on hold. It meant saying no to things that felt good in the moment. Dinners out, Netflix binges, scrolling on my phone, so that I could say yes to the future that I actually wanted to have. People love to tell you when you're doing this that you don't have balance in your life. Let me tell you something. Balance is not how you build anything extraordinary. Balance is how you maintain what you've already built. It's a different season. If you're in a season of building, you don't need balance, you need focus. And focus always looks like obsession to people who aren't committed to what you're committed to. They'll say things to you like, oh, you're working too much. You're too serious about all that. Of course they'll say that because your level of dedication makes them uncomfortable with their level of mediocrity. Don't let people who are okay with average talk you out of becoming exceptional. Habit number 3, audit your time portfolio. Think of your time like a financial investment. Everything you do falls into 3 accounts. There's your maintenance mode account. This is the must-do tasks that keep life running, like eating, cleaning, commuting. Then there's the recharge account. These are the things that you do just purely for enjoyment and recovery. So hobbies, social time, entertainment, relaxation, and then there's your growth account. These are the actions that build your future. Learning new skills, growing your income, building a side hustle, taking on projects that stretch you. Here's the trap most people fall into. Their maintenance account quietly eats up nearly all of their available hours in the evening. And then they sprinkle in just enough recharge mode because they feel like they've earned it. And then it leaves almost nothing in the evening for growth mode. Here's the part no one talks about. Every single hour that you spend in maintenance mode has an opportunity cost attached to it. It's not just laundry you're doing. It's that book that you're not making time for. It's not just the errands you're running. It's the skill you're not learning while you're running the errands. It's not just the dinner you're cooking. It's the business you're not building while you're cooking this elaborate dinner. See, those tasks aren't just using up your time. They're quietly stealing the hours that you could have that would change your life. When I was working full-time as a dietitian, my evenings were really my only window to work on my business. But instead of using them correctly in the beginning for anything that would actually move me forward, I filled them with what I thought were the responsible things to be doing. Cooking from scratch every night, going to the grocery store multiple times a week, reorganizing the pantry, folding laundry as soon as it came out of the dryer. And here's what I didn't realize. Every one of those hours had an opportunity cost. So for every hour that I spent making that perfect dinner, that was an hour I wasn't learning marketing. Every grocery trip was an hour I wasn't creating an offer. Every night of just getting caught up around the house was another night I didn't move my business forward. And when I finally got serious about tracking my time like my income, it was really obvious. I was spending most of my valuable hours on low ROI tasks. So I batch errands, meal prep once a week, and stopped doing laundry until it was a full load. This alone gave me back 8 to 10 hours a week that I could invest in learning sales, building content, working with clients. This reallocation alone was a big part of how I replaced my full-time income. I didn't find more time. I just stopped using my best time on the wrong things. Habit number 4, change your first destination after work. One of the fastest ways to lose your evening is to walk straight into the environment that triggers your default mode. So for me, when I was still working as a dietitian, that default was going home after work. I'd walk in, drop my bag, and think, I'll just sit for 5 minutes before I get up and go to the gym. Well, 5 minutes turned into an hour, and by that point, the odds of me getting back up and getting in the car are basically 0. So I made one simple change. I stopped going home first. I put my gym bag in the car every morning before I went to work. I decided ahead of time, and that way, when 5 p.m. rolled around, I could just drive straight to the gym without the stop-at-home detour. And here's why this worked. It removed the friction of the old environment. The decision to go to the gym wasn't competing with the temptation of the couch, the warmth of my apartment, or the mental load of, I'll just change clothes first. My gym clothes were already with me, so the environment was already set and there was no in-between setup to negotiate with myself. I tell this to people all of the time. If your environment makes the unproductive choice the easiest one, you'll keep making it. But if you can design your environment so the productive choice is the path of least resistance, you'll win by default. So for me, that meant gym bag in the car. For you, it might mean a laptop in the backpack. A booked study space, setting up a work session right after you clock out of work. The key is simple. Don't give yourself a chance to go off route before you do the thing that moves you forward. Habit number 5, study and apply in the same session. One of the fastest ways to stall your growth is to spend all of your learning time just consuming information, reading books, taking notes, watching tutorials, without actually doing anything with it. I learned this the hard way. When I was first starting out in business, I treated it like school. So I spent hours listening to podcasts, reading marketing books, watching YouTube videos on sales, but I wasn't actually selling anything. I felt busy and productive, but when I looked back, after months of doing all of this studying, I had no real results to show for it. That's when I made myself a rule. If I take in new information, I have to be able to use it immediately. No exceptions. So if I'm watching a tutorial on designing a sales page, I have to be able to open up my laptop and start building a sales page the same night. If I read about how to structure a sales conversation, I need to be able to use it right away in my next client call. If I learn a new content strategy, I create the first post before the day ends. In fact, Tony Robbins says, never leave the scene of a decision without taking some form of action towards its realization. And it's true. If you wait, the motivation fades, the details blur, and the momentum is completely gone. I call this the inflow-outflow rule. The moment you take something in, you send something back out. It forces you to build the skill instead of just collecting the knowledge about it. And so here's why it works. Application is what actually locks in learning. When you use a skill right away, you identify gaps and you problem solve and you get feedback right away that you'd never get just from learning the theory alone. And that feedback is what accelerates your growth and moves you forward faster than endless hours of studying ever will. So if you want your evenings to create real change, don't just spend them filling your head with studying. Spend them building something with what you just learned, because knowledge sitting in your brain is potential. Action is what turns that potential into progress. If you commit to all 5 of these habits for the next 6 months, you won't even recognize your life 6 months from now. If you're ready to take this even further, the next step is to set up the systems and habits that make success inevitable. You don't have to rely on willpower or follow through. So I broke it down for you exactly how to do that in this video right here. I'll see you over there. Bye-bye.